You're in a room full of people. Nothing unusual. Conversations overlap. Someone laughs too loudly. Someone checks their phone. And then there's one person, not speaking, just watching. You assume they're shy, quiet, maybe awkward. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Silence isn't always weakness. Sometimes it's data collection. And according to behavioral research, the person who talks the least in a social setting often walks away knowing the most. Now think about that for a second. Because most people believe influence comes from speaking well. In reality, it often comes from observing quietly. That's the first crack in what you think you know about human behavior. And it gets worse. Right now, in every conversation you have, there's a hidden layer running underneath. A layer where people aren't just talking, they're testing, adjusting, calculating. Not consciously, but predictably. This isn't about manipulation in a dramatic villain-style way. This is about subtle patterns, micro-decisions, tiny shifts in behavior that quietly shape outcomes. And once you see it, you don't unsee it. Let's break it down. Human behavior is not random. It follows loops: input, interpretation, reaction. But here's the flaw. The interpretation step is broken. Studies in cognitive psychology show that humans misinterpret social signals up to 60 to 70% of the time. Not because we're unintelligent, because we're biased. We don't see people as they are. We see them as we expect them to be. And that expectation, it's built in seconds. There's something called thin slice judgment. Within 7 seconds of meeting someone, your brain decides, are they safe? Are they useful? Are they above or below me? 7 seconds. And here's where it turns dark. Once that decision is made, your brain stops looking for truth. It starts looking for confirmation. If you think someone is confident, you'll interpret their silence as power. If you think they're insecure, the same silence becomes awkward. Same behavior, different meaning. That's not perception, that's projection. Now, imagine someone who understands this. They don't need to change who they are dramatically. They just need to control the first impression. Because after that, your brain does the work for them. That's why small details matter more than big ones. Posture, eye contact, timing. Not what you say, when you say it. There's a strange pattern in conversations. The person who speaks first often sets the frame, but the person who speaks last controls the memory. It's called the recency effect. People remember the ending more than the middle. So if someone stays quiet, lets everyone talk, and then delivers one clean, confident statement at the end, that becomes the takeaway. It feels like authority, even if it's just timing. Now here's where behavior becomes almost mechanical. People like to believe they make decisions independently, but most decisions are reactions. You smile, they smile back. You lean in, they lean in. You lower your voice, they follow. This is mirroring, and it happens automatically. But when done intentionally, it creates something stronger: trust. Because the brain reads similarity as safety. You don't trust people who are good. You trust people who feel like you. And that's dangerous, because someone doesn't need to be honest to be trusted. They just need to feel familiar. That's why strangers can influence you faster than logic can protect you. Now, let's add another layer: scarcity. If something is always available, you ignore it. If it becomes limited, suddenly it matters. This applies to objects, but more powerfully, it applies to people. Someone who replies instantly, always available, always agreeing, loses perceived value. Not because they lack worth, but because the brain associates rarity with importance. So when someone pulls back slightly, delays responses, becomes less predictable, attention increases. It's irrational, but consistent. And this creates a loop. Attention increases value, value increases desire, desire increases attention. No logic involved, just perception. Now here's the part people don't like to admit. We don't just respond to behavior, we reward it. If someone makes you chase them and you chase, you've just trained them to continue. If someone interrupts you and you let it slide, you've just confirmed it's acceptable. Human interaction is full of these micro-reinforcements. You think you're being polite, but you might be programming the dynamic. And once a pattern is set, it becomes very hard to break, because consistency feels safe, even when it's not. Now, zoom out. All of this creates a system where behavior isn't just expressed, it's shaped in real time. You're not just reacting to people, you're co-creating how they treat you, and they're doing the same, quietly, constantly. That's why two people can interact with the same individual and have completely different experiences. To one person, they're charming. To another, they're distant. To a third, they're intimidating. Same person, different responses triggered. Because behavior adapts, not to truth, to feedback. Now here's the irony. The more aware you become of these patterns, the less natural everything feels. You start noticing pauses, tone shifts, unspoken signals. You see the timing behind jokes, the intention behind compliments, the strategy behind silence. And suddenly, conversations feel less like connection and more like negotiation. Not in a negative way, just precise. Because at its core, human behavior isn't chaotic, it's efficient. The brain is constantly trying to minimize effort and maximize outcome, which means it relies on shortcuts, biases, assumptions, patterns. And anyone who understands those shortcuts can influence outcomes without forcing anything. That's the uncomfortable math. No grand manipulation, no dramatic control, just small adjustments in the right places. A pause here, a look there, a sentence delivered at the exact moment it matters, and the result feels natural, even when it's not. So the next time you're in a room full of people, watch more carefully. Notice who speaks first, who waits, who mirrors, who doesn't. Notice who reacts and who causes reactions. Because the loudest person in the room isn't always the most influential, and the quietest person isn't always harmless. And here's the question that stays with you. If most of human behavior is predictable and most reactions can be shaped, then how many of your decisions actually felt like yours?